So now we're actually in one of the buildings, in the building in one of the rooms. So like I said, right here, you can see that this is gonna be like one of your low voltage switching right here. Like I said, to open it up, all you gotta do is just pull it off to the side. There's 2 screws, and then you just unscrew it, and what you'll see is probably depending on how it's ran, 1 or 2 Cat 5, one going in and one going out. When there's a green light right there, it's lit, that means the lights are on. You hit it off, the green light disappears, lights go off. So that's a nice indicator. If you go look above you, right here, there's a sensor here. Above you guys, there's a sensor. Like so I'm looking at like this right here, right? So you probably have like in these rooms, different sensors all around. If you look up, you'll see like a green light is lit. That means it's actually getting power over the Cat 5. So, and again here we have T-bar, so depending on where they put their junction boxes, it might be along the wall here, it might be off to the side somewhere, wherever they have the power. So like I said, you have Cat 5, let's just assume starts here, goes up, hits these 3 sensors, goes to the power packs, and then what we saw in the other room, the bridge, there's probably another one out here that it goes to that bridge, and then now that one goes all the way back home. All these rooms are gonna have a similar setup. All these little offices, so they go from like their switch, their sensor. If there's a sensor in the smaller rooms, we have a switch that has a built-in sensor on it. Because it's so small, you don't need a ceiling mounted one. So it might just go from switch to the power pack out to a bridge that goes all the way back. Now, if we go to like a small office behind us, if we disconnect that run from the bridge, that room is still gonna work. The reason is that switch and that power pack, since they're tied in with Cat 5, and that power pack is still energized, you still have your control for your switch, everything will turn on and off, and your sensor is still going to talk to that pack to tell it to turn on and off by the sensor. All you're going to lose though is the communication over the main network. But that room will still work. No one will know anything different. Now unless you guys have, like I said, BACnet, if you have somebody that's talking to our controller for like HVAC, locally, it's still going to work. The reason I bring that up is say that main controller in the back is on circuit 1, the rest of the building is on circuit 2, circuit 1 gets turned off, the rest of the building, all these rooms are still going to work perfectly fine. The only thing that's not going to be working perfectly fine is your exterior lights, because depending on when that panel lost power, it won't be able to send the command to the exterior lights to either tell them to turn on or to turn off, just depending when you lost that power. When it gets re-energized though, it's going to say, hey, you guys should be off or on, depending on what time of day it is, and it'll start working. So, losing power connectivity to that, it will not stop your day-to-day action, it will just stop any additional building management or time schedule capabilities. So, what you also have in here too is you have control receptacles. Now, we talked about your regular lighting packs, they're white. We talked about your emergencies that are red. You're going to have another one that's going to be blue. That's your control receptacle. Those control receptacles are only going to be listening to the sensors in the rooms. So if you look along some of the sockets out there, there should be something that says controlled on them. You'll either have like a green icon, or have like a little U icon with a dash. It might be a different color. Just depends on what the spec was called out for. But the way those work is, when you walk into the room, these sensors are going to turn on your lights and it's going to turn on your control receptacles. When you walk out of that room after the 20 minutes, the lights are going to turn off and those control receptacles are going to turn off. But let's say right now in this room, you have all this natural light. I want this lights off. I'm going to hit it off. Well, all the control receptacles, they're still going to stay on because they're listening to the sensor. As long as those sensors still see and hear you, they're going to stay hot. Only when you vacate the room for 20 minutes and those sensors have timed out, will they actually turn off. So like I said, in this area right here, I'm looking over there, I see duplex or 4 outlets. You might have 2 on one side are controlled, the other 2 are constant hots. Or you might have some where the top is controlled and the bottom is constant.
What we did here is and they actually say on the plate they say controlled, and then there's a black mark on the actual part that's controlled.
So yeah, I was gonna ask that right now, because if they have computers, they have the computers be shutting down.
Right, so it's the bottom ones, and not all of them are controlled.
Those are controlled over there.
Yeah,
Yeah, so
not
like some
all
of
of
them
them, but I know there are some. So like in some of the smaller offices over here, you might see it where, like they said, it's gonna be labeled march control, and the other one's gonna be constant, so.
That might be something that whoever's here working needs to know.
Correct,
Because
yes.
Yes.
like there's something- But I'm sure IT would be the ones looking it up.
But that's the information that needs to be told to them, like, hey, if they anything mission critical, or they need 24, needs to be on this one right here, so it doesn't shut off when they go to break, to lunch, or whatever, cause yeah, I've seen that before happen.
Yeah, example would be next door. You go
Yeah.
next door, you'll see the bottom two are
Yeah,
controlled.
This one here, because I think this is the police.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
seriously.
And this one here, I think the engineer where, because it's
on,
critical.
yeah.
Yeah, like I said, it all depends on the plans.
We'll see them.
But yeah, in some of the rooms, again, so if you guys start getting like, hey, this one keeps turning off when I leave, or every time like I'll come in, turns on, and then walk away, you have to reboot every time.
Yeah.
That's something we like looked at, like, yeah, you're on the controlled side, you're not, but you shouldn't be on that one. So, they had that on one job where they had the printer. It was like a little cubby hole area where there's a printer with a sensor, and it had its own switch and a control receptacle. And of course, everyone's off to the side where they're sending print commands. Nothing would happen. Then they walk over there, it would energize it, and it just would print for like 5 minutes because it now has it's energized. Once they looked at, like, oh yeah, you had it on the control one, not the constant. So, like I said, you only probably see that in offices. You're not really you shouldn't see that in any like break rooms or kitchens and stuff like that.
There isn't any.
Sometimes it does happen. That's why I bring it up, but you shouldn't.
There isn't on this. The
Okay.
only one is in the offices, in the
Yeah.
study, the lounges,
Yeah.
and that's it.
Until they reconfigure the space.
And I'm sorry, I missed it. How are they labeled?
You can see
in the next
It
outfit.
says controlled. You'll see-
Yeah.
One says controlled?
Yeah.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
All right.
So they
They're
try.
on the bottom too.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, Mark, is it a black triangle?
Well, we'll show you.
Oh,
We'll
okay.
show you.
It's just,
Yeah.
Oh.
But they try to say, like, so they every time I see them, they try to get more and more vibrant. But people still don't, or they don't understand
Yeah,
what it
because
is.
the only time I've seen those where we have, at Student Health Center,
Yeah.
there was, one that they're like, hey, it's turning off, but there's no big area, so it's not gonna work. you know?
Yeah, exactly.
They did it in the library too, huh?
I'm not sure.
Yeah, you'll see it in most places. Like I said, medical sometimes they don't have it because they have their own stuff. You know, there's other code that dictates it, but you still might see it in different parts of medical.
Yeah, it was in the lobby, so it wasn't in like the bottom of the area, but I
It
think.
was in the
that makes it more sense. Then,
Gordon
yeah.
Hall.
So like I said, when it comes to where you guys are doing troubleshooting, like I said, that's one thing right there.
They did the power
If you're saying, like I said, a lot of these rooms, when you walk in, these sensors, they're passive infrared plus microphonics. The ones in the corridor are just passive infrared. When you walk in here, that sensor sees you, it's gonna turn the lights on from 65%. Now, as long as you're moving around or you're talking, it's not recording, it's getting just it's taking that noise into an electrical signal and saying like, hey, somebody's here, don't shut off. So it's taking that on account, right? When you walk away after 17 and a half minutes of no motion and sound, the lights are gonna dim down to 1% as a warning, and at that 20-minute mark, they'll shut off, right? Here you can see I have 1, 2, there might be a third sensor right there. All three of these sensors have to time out to 0 for the lights shut off. So again, if you have someone that's back there and there's nobody here in the counter, so this one's timed out, that one, let's just say timed out, but that third one, as long as that one sees that person or hears that person, it's gonna keep this entire room lit. So the reason I bring it up is sometimes you're like, hey, this room's never turning off. Sometimes it could be that, again, motion turns it on, but motion and sound keep it on. The HVAC, it might be too close to a vent, or it might get that air, and that sound might keep it from turning off. Because again, motion turn it on, so someone turned it on when they came in, but that noise is just keeping it from going off. So
Now, can we program these to be sensitive, more sensitive than they are?
yeah, so connecting to that controller, you can make them higher or lower, or even disable the microphonics on it, which sometimes we've had to do. We've had to lower the microphonics, and sometimes on a few of them we've had to disable it because it just kept getting noise from somewhere, and it wouldn't allow the lights to turn off. So we've done that before.
Because we have issues in other buildings where there's people sitting at a desk in the row,
Yes.
and it doesn't pick them up, and then the lights turn off on them.
So depending on where that's at, you can manipulate the PIR. I don't know to what degree. It's already set as high, but sometimes you have to start looking at environmental, because if they're sitting low, and again, if you have, I've seen this when like cubicles, this comes out as a cone. Now, if it's right there and they have this, you know, cubicle that comes up this high, they're probably right there in that blind spot. So sometimes you have to look at it, it's like, okay, well, we can raise it up, but sometimes like it's
It's not gonna happen.
yeah.
On these rooms, when you walk in, you enter, they go to 65%.
Correct.
Can you just push the on button to raise them to 100, or do you actually have to physically,
You have to hold it.
you actually have to push and hold?
Yeah.
Can you program that switch to where the on can change that?
To go to 100?
So basically, if you just push on again, it'll raise to 100?
No, so per tile 24, can't do that. And that's why everything was programmed to, on top of the regular sequence of operations. So tile 24, the tile 24 is the California Efficiency Code for energy saving. They are not allowed to come on to 100.
No,
You
no,
can,
no. Just the button press, you walk in, it goes to 65%. Can you program the switch to press the on to go to 100%?
No, like I
Yeah,
said-
that's not title,
that wouldn't be tile 24.
Yeah, correct.
Because coming on at 65%, that's what we
That's
had.
what it implies.
That's what we applied. We're applying it anytime the lights come on, either via the switch or the sensor, they come on to a certain light level.
Mhm.
We have to set that light level, and the California code is 65%.
Yeah, so if
Um,
you did want a brighter room, you have to physically press and hold.
Yes,
to get it
or you
on.
have to reprogram it so that
Yeah.
it always comes on at 100%.
Right, or 80, whatever you decide, okay. just-
Yeah, like I said. Now, if that's something.
Which when we leave, you can do that.
I was about to get now. Now it's gonna be your guys' system. If you guys choose to do something like that, that's on you guys. We program it per code because the top 24 inspectors, they come out, they approve it, make sure everything's working properly, and then they send the report.
The system's set up awesome where it's like one button, you can change that configuration where it can, without having to change each sensor.
Our system, no, yeah, you can't have it where it's like if I hit on, it goes to
No,
65.
in the system itself, I kind of remember in the program that you could actually change that setting without having to go through, reconfigure every single sensor on the job.
No, yeah, you just in this case it's just the power pack or the power packs,
Yeah.
depending. But I mean, yeah, you have to do in the areas that you want to.
Mhm.
So would be one button, but it would be the rooms that you would want that to happen in. But again, like I said, that's something if you guys want to after the fact. But yeah, all the rooms go 65. Again, you can always go raise or lower it. You can go higher or lower. Again, this one's more simple because you don't have A or B in here. But like I said, here you probably have a normal emergency, but you can tell everything's operating the same. Once you lose that normal sensing power, these emergencies, which probably let's just say there's 4 in here, will turn on, go to 100% full bright, and this switch sensor will not be controlling them until you get that normal power back on. So
Is this system tied into the fire alarm?
that I'm not
This
aware of.
system is not technical.
No. So yeah. So
In a sense of, you
I believe that's code now, that it needs to tie into the fire
you're
alarm.
talking about emergency lighting.
The emergency lighting, yeah, basically if the generator comes on,
Oh, it is
Yeah,
technical.
that is.
It is
Yeah,
technical.
ties on,
I thought
ties
that's what you were
ties
referring
into
to,
the fire
emergency
alarm
lighting.
system.
Yeah.
It is
So
Okay.
if fire alarm's triggered,
Yeah.
the emergency lighting comes on.
so then they have that, yeah. Which is that's I guess yeah, I've started seeing that more and more often now too. So that way if there's not a loss of power with the fire, then they'll just go 100% full bright. So and then when you exit that state, you should have control. So in that state, what you might have is you might be able to hit the switch and turn the normals on and off, raise and lower them still, but the emergencies probably won't be able to control at all until you exit that state. So that'll be the difference. So like I said, for troubleshooting purposes, like I said, if you come in the room and the lights don't come on automatically, that's a complaint you guys might get. Hit the switch, do the lights come on and off? Do they raise and lower? The way it works is if I leave this room right now, I hit the switch off, we leave it, that 20-minute timer to turn the lights off, that same timer, what happens is when it expires when this room is vacant and the lights are off, it puts the room back into auto on position. Meaning, like I said, if I hit the switch off, we leave, we come back 30 minutes later, these sensors will automatically tell the lights to come back on. But again, if we leave, we come back in 15 minutes later, before the 20 minutes has expired, the sensor is not going to tell the lights to come back on automatically. We have to hit it back on. The reason being that sensor is always tracking or seeing us, right? So now we have this big window here. Let's say if we were in an office space, conference room doing like a presentation, if I hit the lights off, I want the lights to stay off while I do my presentation, I don't want them to just come back on 20 minutes and, make it really bright. So that's how the sensor works, is when you're in the room, the sensor sees you, it keeps the lights on. When you're in the room and you hit the lights off and you leave it, 20 minutes after no motion and sound, it expires, it comes back on, goes back to its automatic on position. So you might just get that sometimes when you get this place more active, like, hey, hit the lights off and they come back on, they don't turn on automatically. Hit the switch, and then just like, all right, when you leave for the day or leave for lunch, make sure you just lock it up, come back, and then just see if they come back auto on, because they might have come back within that small timer.
Are all switches PoE?
Yes. So all these have caps. So we were talking about is you have a regular lighting pack that's white, or emergency that's red, and then
blue for the outlets, correct.
a blue is for the control receptacle. So the red and blue one do not provide power over the Cat 5. The white one does. Like I said, and it just goes in here. Each switch and sensor eat about 3 milliamps, and coming out of each port of those white ones, you have 40 milliamps. So power of the Cat 5 has already been calculated on our end, so as long as the electrician's wired it to that point, you don't have to worry about anything like that. The other troubleshooting you guys might see, like I said, if I'm hitting the switch and I'm not getting that green light, nothing's happening from here to there, I would start opening up the switch and start tracing out the Cat 5, maybe look at the plans to see, okay, it goes from here to the sensor, okay, does the sensor have green light? No. Okay, let me keep going and see where that's at, because again, it gets power over the Ethernet, so you need to see where that drop in power was. Like, so right now we have a couple of tile open, it's fine. I've been on job sites where we come in, we've programmed it, where they still had kind of tiles open, we leave it, we get a call like a week later, like none of the switches and sensors are working. We start doing some more digging and talking, like, oh yeah, well they pulled the tile up. When they pulled the tile up, they unplugged a bunch of the Cat 5s and never plugged them back in. So I'm not saying that's what's going to happen here. I'm just trying to give you guys examples. Like, since everything is tied in series and you get power to these devices over the Cat 5, if you start seeing stuff like, hey, there's no power here, there's nothing to sensor, you need to start tracing things out.
So is this like a different system, or is it like from the switch, as soon as you go up to the top, there's a power path there? Or does it just get fed from another source?
It depends on how they ran the Cat 5, but for simplicity's sake, let's just say it goes from this Cat, from here, goes up to a power pack, from here goes up to a sensor, it's a third one, and there's 2 more power packs over there maybe. As long as it's getting power to the Cat 5, it's going to talk to that device. Now, if from here to here is good, but from here that way, when I hit the switch, it only might be turning on or off whatever this power pack is controlling. So, but again, without looking at the plans and seeing everything, it's hard to tell you how they ran the Cat 5. But I said, because you can start from here, it can start from off to the side. It just depends on how things were ran. Because again, environmental-wise, I saw a T-bar, but they might have fire-rated walls in some of these rooms that go up, and they have to, put a conduit that goes through it, and the conduit's off to the side. So every room might be a little bit different. These offices, they might be right above the door right here. Typically, that's where I see them, but again, I can't speak for.
So what we did in this situation is what we detailed all the rooms, and then so we have where we put the relays, the way we ran our cable, and when we're basically we ran it the way we designed it. So what we'll do is we'll turn that over to you guys. You guys will know, which way the routing, how many
Like
go
a red
in the
line.
room.
Basically a red line. Yeah.
Pretty much.
Okay.
Yeah, so you guys will get that.
And that's how I would start looking at it. Like I said, going back to power of the Cat 5, if you're like, okay, it leaves this power pack and it goes to these devices, my point that I need to troubleshoot is from the power pack to this first sensor. I don't need to troubleshoot, let's just say it goes power pack to sensor, 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 switch. There's no reason for me to start here this way, because I know this is towards the end of the line. I need to go from over there to that first sensor. That's where I need to start my troubleshooting. Because that's why I've kind of seen guys like, well, let me start from here. I'm like, well, we know these are not working, so where's the first one where it's supposed to be? And then we'll work kind of backwards, because it might just be something got unplugged.
Doesn't it also send a code on the switch, like flash red or certain?
Now, it does if it's getting power,
right,
but if it's not getting power,
Right,
there's
right,
nothing
right.
for it. Now, sometimes like those flashing codes, typically we'll see them during installation, stuff like that, but that's already taken care of. But yes, there's one where it's like 2 blinks and a flutter, typically means it's Cat 5 issues. Sometimes I think it's 3 blinks and a flutter, could be something with power over the Cat 5. Still could be something with wiring, the Cat5 heads and stuff, but typically during the startup and installation, when we do the program, if we have issues, we're working with them, like, hey, I can't see these devices, and that should have all been taken care of. Granted, once people start moving in and everything after the fact, hopefully nobody gets above there and starts doing things. Again, I've seen different different things. You shouldn't have that issue at all. So.
Should we move up to the second floor?
We can, like I said, we'll see more some of the.
Because I know that's what you guys want to take a look at. Where
Yeah, let's quickly, we'll look in there, peek in there and see the controls.